With the USFL Conference Championship game just 24 hours away, we'll be looking at kickoff at 3 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow with the Michigan Panthers at the Birmingham Stallions in their 8th matchup in the current legacy of the USFL/UFL since 2022. Now, of course, we all know the Michigan Panthers have not won a game against the Birmingham Stallions in modern-day spring football history. And this is a rematch of last year's USFL Conference Championship game, but the stakes are completely different when it comes to this championship game. Let's pull up here the depth chart for tomorrow's game and go over some notes from James Larson from Pro Football Newsroom based off these depth chart. Michigan is without running back Nate McCrary, defensive end Kenny Wilkes, and cornerback Kenny Lovely, all key pieces. Bryce Perkins is starting at quarterback, not surprisingly. Cornerback Adonis Alexander is back and starting. D. Delaney is making his debut. Jamar Smith, quarterback 1. Matt Corral, quarterback 2 for Birmingham. We'll talk about what happened to Alex Magoo here in just a moment. And then for Birmingham, they will be without defensive ends Delonte Scott and Max Roberts, but Bradley Ani returns, and then Willie Yarberry gets the start at defensive tackle for Birmingham. Again, all from James Larson with Pro Football Newsroom. This is your depth chart, as you can see here on the screen. Bryce Perkins getting a start. Danny Elling will be the backup, and then, of course, Rocky Lombardi will be the emergency quarterback. For the Birmingham Stallions side, Jamar Smith will get that start. Backup quarterback Matt Corral, and then emergency quarterback Andrew Peasley. Key points here, obviously, is both teams are a little bit banged up here and there, but for the most part, we are seeing, obviously, Toa Tau getting to return. Matthew Colburn II as his backup. Like I said, they will be out or without Nate McCrary in this game, which is a huge loss for them. But we'll talk why Tau has the best odds to essentially help the Michigan Panthers get this win in this game. So let's go ahead, let's pull up here, and we will talk the full breakdown of the USFL Conference Championship game tomorrow with the Michigan Panthers and the Birmingham Stallions that I have put up here. I'm going to pull this up on the screen, and let's go ahead and dive right on into it. So the USFL Conference Championship game comes to us tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, live from Protective Stadium, where the reigning and defending UFL champions, the Birmingham Stallions, will look to get their 4th consecutive spring football championship game and try to win their 4th. But they will have to go through a quite different Michigan Panthers team than last year. Obviously, last year we know Bryce Perkins was out with an injury last year. This year, he is starting for the team. Now, of course, as you know, if you watched my Pick'ems video earlier, you would know I have selected the Michigan Panthers, not the Michigan. That sounds weird. It seems like I'm talking about the Ohio State. The Michigan Panthers to win that game tomorrow, and I'll address a little bit more in this preview of why that is. So this year, we have confirmed the starting quarterbacks, as I talked about, for tomorrow. We first look at the visiting team, the Michigan Panthers, who are currently 6-4 during the 2025 season, and will get back their starting quarterback, Bryce Perkins, who has been dealing with a right ankle injury since week 7 of the season. It has been a long 3 weeks for Bryce Perkins healing up to get ready for the Panthers postseason. In his last start, he went 15 for 28 for 231 yards and 1 touchdown. If he will come into the conference championship game playing 7 of the 10 games and went 109 attempts for 109 completions out of 158 attempts with 2 interceptions on the season, with a 69 completion percentage for 1,342 yards and 9 touchdowns, with his longest completion being 45 yards. He fumbled the ball 5 times during the season and only lost it once. He will have to kind of keep that under control during this game, but again, keep in mind, we've got to keep an eye on that ankle. He was limited in practice most of the week, so he'll get that start, but I would definitely see that could affect the run game for him, for rushing, and it could affect him when he's got to step outside the pocket to get some of those throws in. He was the quarterback that earned all UFL team this year and will look to get his team to the UFL Championship game in St. Louis in just over a week away. But it will come with a lot of work and a curse that has haunted the Panthers since the rebirth of the USFL in 2022, where the Michigan Panthers have not been able to beat the Birmingham Stallions, whether it was in regular season play or even conference championship game last year. When you look at the overall perspective here, it could be an uphill battle for the Panthers. Obviously, looking at the injury report from this week, like I said, Bryce is still favoring that right ankle injury and has been limited in practice, but it does raise the question of just how healthy, like I said, how healthy is he going into tomorrow's game? We know, obviously, that Danny Edling will serve as backup quarterback, with Rocky listed as emergency quarterback. As for the running game, the Panthers are without Nate McCrary, as James Larson reported, based on the depth chart, who is currently their rushing leader this season and played in all 10 games this year. It'll be Toa Tao and Matthew Colburn in the running back position, with Tao starting. He is currently number 2 on the team and played in 7 of the 10 regular season games with 81 attempts for 365 yards and 6 touchdowns, which, let's be honest here, is the leader on the ground with those 6 touchdowns. They will for sure need Toa to show up big in this game to hopefully quiet the defense early on in the game to change the narrative. Well, the Panthers have the most touchdowns this season at 29 and 2 defensive touchdowns. They also have scored the most points in the league with 245, with the Stallions right on their heels with 244 points this season, which is a very interesting stat when it comes down to it. Mariner, who the receiver, was the league leader with receiving yards this season with 527 yards in just 31 completions, with the longest being 45 yards. Well, he will need to continue this tomorrow and have a repeat of what happened just 2 weeks ago in Week 9, where he scored his only touchdown of the year, making the Stallions defense look weak on multiple occasions. He had 115 receiving yards in that game. This, again, is something that will need to be in tip-top shape for the Panthers to get a win here. Now, the big part about this is to slow down the Birmingham Stallions offense when it comes to the Panthers defense. When we look at them, well, they've given up 198 points this season. The Panthers will need to slow Jamar Smith down, who has been on a roll lately since his return to the league. And essentially, he was working at Dunkin' Donuts when they called him to be part of the Stallions late in the season as like the emergency backup quarterback. He then ended up going from emergency quarterback to starting quarterback pretty quick due to a massive amount of injuries to the quarterback position that they've had. The key stats here is the Panthers receiver, Mariner, led the UFL, like I was talking about, in receiving with 528 yards, and all UFL cornerback Kendrick Whitehead Jr. Led Michigan with 66 combined tackles. The Panthers committed 12 turnovers with 7 lost fumbles and 5 interceptions during the regular season. That will have to be stopped. To get the victory tomorrow, to advance the UFL Championship, and to continue their winning ways to try to get a championship here, they will need to make sure that they do not turn over any ball whatsoever, whether it's tomorrow or next week if they get into the UFL Championship game. When we look at the other side of things with the Birmingham Stallions, this past week, we thought we could see Alex Magoo returning for the Stallions, but learned that he got hurt again and has ended his season and is back on the IR for the second time this season. The Stallions, though, do get Matt Corral back as backup quarterback. It will remain to be seen what Skip Holtz does throughout the game, but Jamar Smith will be his go-to man for the game. Quarterback Jamar Smith helped lead the Stallions to a USFL title in 2022 and has been the savior of Birmingham's offense since his mid-season return, going 52 for 80 for 758 yards with 6 touchdowns and 1 interception in 4 games played. Speaking of rushing for the Stallions, they have their top 2 running backs with Ricky Pearson. That's weird. It's spelt wrong on this form that I typed up from their depth chart. And CJ Maribel playing with a combined 532 total rushing yards and 6 touchdowns between the two. The biggest problem is how little of rushing offense that the Panthers have allowed this season, with only 81 yards per game. If this keeps up tomorrow, this could be a big problem for the Stallions. The plus side for Jamar is how the fact that the Panthers are actually the worst league with passing yards and have given up the most this season of all other 7 teams, 2,204 yards to be exact. That is why Jamar Smith and the Stallions will have to throw the ball a lot tomorrow and depend on that more so than the rushing game, because if the Panthers defense continues to give up these passing yards, that is going to lead to more points being scored, and that is going to lead to a victory essentially for the Birmingham Stallions in that realm. Now, on the Birmingham Stallions defensive side, their sack leader, Brody Lee Aneen, who has 4 sacks, is expected to return to the lineup after missing 2 games due to a hamstring injury. Linebacker Tenzeno led the Stallions with 57 tackles, including 5 tackles for loss. He also finished with 1 sack, 1 pass breakup, and 1 forced fumble. Again, the Stallions defense will need to step their game up. They'll have to look, obviously. We'll get an early vision of what essentially most likely the Panthers are going to be doing on offense. I would assume with the Stallions being the home team, they would elect to get the ball back after halftime. So in that case, we should see Bryce Perkins in the Panthers offense pretty early in the game, and we'll get the kind of vision of what type of game it'll be, what Bryce Perkins looks like in the form of his leg and everything like that, and what kind of game we're expecting to see out of them. Now, of course, if Bryce Perkins doesn't need to use his legs much and is able to essentially use Toa and Matt Colburn for rushing and depend on that they've been so great at this year, that could really help the Panthers in that way. Again, it all depends on how that leg is, and could we potentially see Danny Edling in the game as well. It has not favored the Michigan Panthers in past this season when they have gone 2 quarterbacks throughout the game and kind of switched around, and that has led to essentially massive losses in that realm. We know last week they did it with Danny Edling and Rocky Lombardi to kind of get him some reps or whatnot. But it's still, when you go back to the losses that the Panthers have this year, we see that in most of those games, they had no real plan of what they were doing at the quarterback position, and they were switching between Danny and Bryce at that point. I think that will need to be limited in this game if they can help it with Bryce Perkins' ankle injury. But overall, I think at the end of the day, we do know that the Stallions have 16 turnovers this season, and they are tied for third in the UFL with forced turnovers. So that's a big key piece that we need to keep an eye on tomorrow, because if the Stallions defense can force more turnovers, potentially leading to pick six, forced fumbles leading to points, that is all something that the Stallions will need essentially to continue making sure to stop the Panthers on that rushing offense that they have been great at so far this year. Overall, like I said, I do believe that the Panthers will walk away with a victory here, whether it is late in the fourth quarter. I do think this will be a pretty decent game to where it's going to be pretty evenly matched. I think both teams walking into this game show very similar styles, and that could be essentially a problem here, where it just depends on what exactly happens. When you look at the offense of the Panthers, they're good at rushing. The Stallions offense has been a little bit better at stopping the passing game this year, where on the flip side, you have the Panthers defense who have been stopping the run game, and that's kind of where essentially the Stallions have been pretty decent this year as well. Again, it's a two-headed monster here when it comes to the factor of these quarterbacks. They are very similar with Jamar Smith and Bryce Perkins. They use their legs a lot. They are great at passing, especially some of the like Hail Marys, long passes down the field. Both of them have had success at that realm. But at the end of the day, I just hope for a really good conference championship game we get here. And we'll see what at the end of the day, what happens here. Let me know in the comments what you think about this game here. Anything stand out to you in the overall depth chart? And let me know your thoughts. And we'll see you back here later today for the XFL Conference Championship preview with the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks that will do battle tomorrow evening. We'll see you back here on the flip side. Have a great one, everyone.